being created because we have found a situation where after every election, and actually this is only one person. Actually, it's Raila Odinga. It's not the Kenyans, actually. It's Raila Odinga. Every time he loses the election, this was his 5th time that he was losing a presidential election, he goes to the streets, he causes mayhem. So we are saying, let's make him productive as a leader of opposition. Make him productive, make him legitimate, give him something to do that he can do that is more useful to Kenyans instead of going to the streets and causing mayhem. And having that leader of opposition, in fact, the way I look at it, there are other ways of doing it. You don't necessarily have to amend the constitution. You could simply amend the political parties Act and the Elections Act on the nominations. So you can say that political parties, when they nominate, one of the persons they should nominate is the person who had the second largest number of presidential votes to be nominated as a member of parliament. And when he comes to member of parliament, he then automatically will become the leader of the minority leader.
Yeah, so you're talking about the minority.
So you don't even have to touch the constitution. We just have to make amendments to something else.
Because that was the other question. For example, now if you have that office, what happens to the office of the minority? Are we abolishing it?
No, I'm just saying if you nominate Raila Odinga to parliament today, he will automatically become the minority leader.
So you sort out that matter.
Yeah, you sort out that problem. So we don't even have to touch the constitution. And that's why I was saying this bipartisan talks, if it's about, once they raise those issues, what they want changed, then they just give it to a team of legislative drafts people like us. We'll draft that law. We'll know which law to amend.
But
it's very simple. So, but let them agree on what they want. Because usually you want the public to agree on what they want.
Yes, and then
the legislative drafting can now be done by technicians.
But isn't that really turning out the whole structure of parliament, where the way it is, the plenary, it will look like it's a parliamentary system, so to speak, while we are predicated on a presidential system?
In fact, first of all, I don't know why this is a narrative that has been sold by the media and many people to say we are a parliamentary system.
We are a hybrid.
Yes.
We are a mishmash.
There is no system. This is a Kenyan system. Kenyans designed this constitution. We decided how we wanted to run. So we are not locked to say there is no law that says we have to be either parliamentary or presidential. We can decide that we are neither, and we create our own system. So you're just looking at history, what other countries are doing. Who says that you can only be either or? That's not the position. We can design our own system. Yes. Okay. So don't sell that narrative, because that's what's being sold. That you're either or. Even this issue of saying it was Kenyans who decided they didn't want assistant ministers. But it's coming apparently clear that we do actually need assistant ministers. The ministers are overwhelmed. They are overworked. Yeah? So if you have assistant ministers, it eases the pressure out of them. And that's why initially we used to think that you only needed to have one principal secretary. But it came out clearly that if you have a ministry of sports, creative arts, I don't know what, many things, then you need, for each of those aspects, you need to have a different PS. And so when you look at things practically, we are able to do that. And I think the cabinet assistant secretaries were actually supposed to be able to deal with that. Because you find every important function, the minister has to go. The minister has to be in cabinet. The minister has to do everything. They also have international meetings that they need to have, bilateral talks and so on. So they are overwhelmed. But if you have a cabinet assistant secretary, then they can be able to go and deal with some of the issues that you don't have to. Yes.
Okay, let me hear from Aidan Kenneth, because the president says that they'll be funded, but this fund is already available.
Which
when
fund?
You look at the Political Funding Act, I mean, for when the lion's share, is it a 7% or is 0.3%
from
the exchequer for the political
parties?
Yeah, political parties fund.
Yes, but then that one is given. That one is given to political parties in accordance to the number of votes they garnered.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's how it's calculated.
Because when you look at this Political Funding Act, it is still lifting that particular funding that the president is saying now will be funding the opposition. it is not, where is this funding coming from if it's not the 0.3% that we have in the constitution? That's what I am inclined to wonder. What
I think
where will the fund really come
I
from?
think my thoughts, although I'm not very sure about it, is that if it's going to the other one is going to political parties, but this one we're saying is the leader of official opposition, and that office will end up drawing shadow cabinet ministers from the entire opposition. It won't be ODM alone. It will be ODM, it will be YPI, it will be whoever else is part of that.
And it just be done a budget like we do for even now in the parliament. So it may be part of the budget.